Welcome back into Foolish Club Media. This is the Foolish Club postgame show. I am Steven Serda, joined as always by my guy, Rocky Magaña. Rocky, it's week 11 in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs just suffered their first loss of the season. They fall to 9-1 on the year with a 30-21 loss in Buffalo, and it wasn't the prettiest of games for the Kansas City Chiefs, Rocky, but we're used to those kinds of performances. There's a lot to get into from this game. I'm not overly disappointed. Like, I still think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. I still think this is this is the Super Bowl front runner this NFL season, but we know that the Buffalo Bills have been a tough matchup for this team, especially in the regular season. And the Chiefs just could not put it all together on Sunday to go up to Buffalo and get a win and try to improve to 10-0 on the season.
F&A, Serda. F&A. No. The defense just didn't play good enough today. They didn't make the plays when they had to make them. And the Chiefs in general didn't make the plays when they had to have them. It wasn't a pretty game from the get-go. I don't think Buffalo played the cleanest game either, but they made the plays they had to make when they had to make them, and the margin of error against a team this good on the road is so slim that you can't play the way Kansas City did today and expect to win the game. Kansas City had a chance to win the game. They had a chance. They were in the game the whole time. They led for a little bit. It was a fun game. It was an entertaining game, but they didn't play good enough to win the game today. But end of the day, it's one loss in the regular season. We haven't beat Buffalo in the regular season since 2020.
Yeah.
And it hasn't stopped us from winning championships. So the sky's not falling, but they just didn't play well today.
I do think there's something really valid, and there is truth to, like, the Chiefs don't want to, overextend themselves and show too much in the regular season against a team like the Buffalo Bills. But we did get some good stuff from Andy Reid today and from the Chiefs offense, like encouraging signs moving forward for the Kansas City Chiefs offense. But you mentioned it. And at the end of the day, like, they just didn't play well enough to come out of Buffalo with a win. And yes, the undefeated season's over, which, Rocky, I don't think me and you have totally talked about this. I was in favor of just drop a game already. I don't need to do this. I don't need to pretend like I care about the Chiefs going undefeated in the regular season. Like, we've seen much better teams try to do that and fail. And the Chiefs are still one of the absolute best teams in the NFL right now, but they are certainly far from a flawless football team. So if anything, I would have loved to get this win and extend that lead in the AFC over the team that looks like it is the clear second runner up behind the Kansas City Chiefs right now in the conference. So if you're going to lose one, I would prefer that it not be to this Buffalo Bills team. But part of me is also relieved that they finally just got this loss out of the way. And now we don't have to talk about the undefeated regular season anymore. And the goal can shift back to what it has always been, which is go win a third straight Super Bowl and cement yourself as one of the greatest teams in NFL history that way.
You're right. Strategically, it would be better for them to lose next week against the Panthers than to lose this week against the Bills. But my ego is happier that they lost a game to one of the best teams in the NFL, who's arguably the second best team in the AFC and possibly the second best team in the NFL, up next to like the likes of Detroit and Baltimore. And so it's not a bad loss. You lost on the road to a really, really good team. You didn't play well enough. You didn't play your best football. I don't think you can walk out of there saying that you gave your best effort, but you fought hard. Listen, the Chiefs aren't going to show everything, but at the same time, the Chiefs didn't lose because of play calling today. The Chiefs lost because of execution, right? Like we can talk about it here in a little bit, but the secondary is a concern. The secondary did not play well enough. The tackles are still an issue for Kansas City, right? Like, Juwan Taylor can't get that holding penalty where he got it on that final drive. Like that's a drive killer. And the Chiefs had a couple of those on offense, right? And so they did not execute in the big moments. And that's the thing that I talked about all last week, how like the blocked kick was not a fluke because championship teams championship plays.
Yeah.
And today on the road, the Buffalo Bills made those championship plays. The Kansas City Chiefs just did not make those plays today, right? And that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world by any means. It's one loss. It's regular season. Chiefs are still going to win the division. There's even with a loss, there's still a game up on Buffalo for the 1 seed in the AFC, right? And so the next hardest game they have for the rest of the year is it's the Houston Texans, who aren't playing their best football right now and who have a ton of injuries. So there's a very good chance the Chiefs win out and they still get the number 1 seed. And this is all for naught. But today, as a rapid reaction, as an immediate reaction to the post-game show, it sucks. It sucks that they could have won this game and they didn't because they didn't play their best.
And that Christmas Day game against the Steelers all of a sudden has way more implications than I initially thought it was going to at the start of this season, as they I don't even think they scored a touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens today. They just kicked like 6 field goals and still beat the Baltimore Ravens. So the AFC is getting a little tight at the top. So, of course, you would like to see the Chiefs come away from this. And I do have plenty of thoughts on the defense because I think that is my biggest concern with this team moving forward. Because now we've got a large enough sample size that, like, okay, this is a little worrisome. But you talk about execution and the Chiefs' lack of execution. And that's where I want to start with the offense, because there was good things that we saw on Sunday. Like, it wasn't all negative, but the Chiefs immediately start the game on offense. Second play of the game, Patrick Mahomes, just absolutely awful interception that leads to a Bills opening drive touchdown. And you're just like, okay, that's what we're going to do today. Like that's how we're going to play today. And then I think the thing that I was even more frustrated about than that early interception by Mahomes is that to start the second half, you get the stops from the defense. And the offense has an opportunity to go out there and try to take the lead back after they go down 2 points heading into halftime. And they're not able to get anything going. They don't get that scoring drive until after their backs are up against the wall and they absolutely have to have it. And a lot of that is just, again, execution. It's just small instances where, they just aren't in sync, or Mahomes doesn't have enough time to find somebody down the field. Kingsley Suamataia was an inactive today. Like, the offensive line had issues and Mahomes was under a lot of pressure, and that Bills secondary is really good. But inevitably, it's the same things we've been talking about, where it's hard to gripe about a team that is so good and so talented that comes into this game undefeated. But there's sloppy mistakes week after week, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And inevitably, that's what wound up costing them against this talented Buffalo Bills team this week.
Well, yeah, and it was stupid stuff. Like Patrick Mahomes' interception, bad throw aside, it was a horrible throw. It was an even worse decision to even throw the ball. It's 2nd and 4 on the opening drive. Right? Like, tuck the ball, run, get 1 or 2 yards, set yourself up for 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, whatever. Even if you gain no yards and it's 3rd and 4, that's still a manageable down to keep the drive alive, right? Like, but he's sitting here trying to play this hero ball right out of the gates, and he just floats it and makes a terrible throw on a terrible decision. Like you got to, like, in this game on the road, you got to play smarter. Right? Like, you got to be locked in. And it was a mental error on his part right out of the bat. And we saw those mental errors over and over and over again today. Right? Like you mentioned, Wanya Morris struggled today. We knew he was going to struggle against these defensive ends. Jawan Taylor struggled today. We knew he was going to struggle against these defensive ends. But then at the same time, Xavier Worthy out there not getting his second foot down. Right? Like dragging his back foot too early. And I know he's a rookie and those are rookie mistakes and it's a learning curve. But in that game, you can't afford the learning curve. You need your rookies to make those plays. And that's an unforgivable mental error on what would have been a huge chunk play. Right? Like that was a game-changing play right there that was completely called back because he just doesn't get his feet down. And that's not the first time we've seen Worthy not get his feet down on a catch. And so at some point you got to be like, bro, you're not in college anymore. You got to get 2 feet down. 1 foot is not enough, Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
And he had some nice plays today, and I'm not here to like kill the kid, but there's reason you want to look at reasons why the Chiefs lost the game, and it's stupid little stuff like not getting your second foot down.
Yeah, and that's that's the second time in the last few weeks that Worthy's field awareness has burned the Chiefs, and I wanted to talk about him because I do think that we saw some positive progress from Xavier Worthy in his role in the offense, where you come in against this Buffalo Bills defense and that secondary that has been so tremendous all season at like shutting down perimeter wide receivers. And you expect them to have a strong plan for Travis Kelce. And they essentially do. Like Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins cannot get anything going all day. And Kelce only winds up with even 4 targets in this game, 2 receptions for 8 yards. But then the Chiefs have a we need it scoring drive where Xavier Worthy is the centerpiece of that and gets multiple touches, makes a couple of big plays, and then ends the drive with the touchdown. And you were like, okay, like that's the stuff we've been wanting to see from Xavier Worthy. That's how he can fit into this offense where we know teams now know for certain they have to shut down DeAndre Hopkins. They have to shut down Travis Kelce. And then everybody else, it's like, can you just get a few plays from these guys here and there? And we've been chasing this with Worthy. And I know Juju comes back this week, and Juju had a couple of decent plays, but like Juju wasn't heavily involved in the offense. And again, this is a good Buffalo Bills secondary. But that was the encouraging thing from Worthy is that like I do think there's things they've been holding back offensively for Worthy, and we at least got to see a little bit of that in this game. He's still a rookie. He's going to make some mistakes. He's got to figure out the field awareness stuff. And then hopefully he can give you enough here and there where he's going to be able to make some plays if teams are putting the clamps on DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce. Like, I still think there was encouraging signs from the offense in this one, Rocky, but you're totally right. Like, it's just kind of the same things over and over again. And I'm just hoping that now that Juju's back, DeAndre Hopkins is more in the mix, and the Chiefs are at least showing a little bit more of a willingness to try to get Worthy involved and try to utilize that game-breaking speed a little bit here, that we'll just see this offense kind of clean some things up down the stretch here. And now that this game's out of the way, like they've got the Carolina Panthers next week. I don't expect them to break out a ton of things in that, but this is the time of their schedule in the regular season to start working on those things and being like, we got to clean up these small mistakes because these are things that are going to cost us in the playoffs. And so I just want to see that as we move forward here. I just want to see a little bit more progress in that regard and cleaning up the dumb mistakes that are going to cost you later down the line.
Yeah, if you're gonna expand Xavier Worthy's role, this next stretch of games is the time to do it because it's where you can have the growing pains, right? And kind of weather those a little bit. You're right about the field awareness. It is concerning. It's concerning that it seems to be something that hasn't gotten better. We're not like in week 3 of the season right now, right? And he's a rookie, and it takes receivers sometimes 2 years, right, for it to really click and for them to figure it out. And he made a couple really nice catches today. He made one really nice catch. He got thumped on, and he held on to the ball. So I don't want to make it feel like it was all bad by Xavier Worthy. And I do think that with Juju back and with DeAndre Hopkins in the offense, it's going to open up Worthy downfield more because you have 2 legitimate receiving threats along with Kelce underneath, where teams are going to have to leave 3-4 guys underneath in coverage just to cover those the guys that they have, right? So that's going to open up Mecole Hardman, who's been excellent in special teams, but then also had a couple really nice plays today on offense too. Like you saw them go to Mecole Hardman a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really going to open up Worthy and Mecole Hardman for some big plays if they can just execute and stop shooting themselves in the foot and make those big plays, right? It's all about execution. It's all about the little things, right? That's like the difference between a Super Bowl and a 4-win season is about 5 or 6 little things a game, honestly, right? Like you see like teams that don't do the little things right and teams that do the right little things right, and their records are completely different. Oh, I think, are you still muted?
Oh yeah, sorry.
There we go.
But I thought I clicked on it, but apparently I missed it, and I was doing too many things at once. But I think what I was also a little bit frustrated about today, and I know DeAndre Hopkins almost comes up with that insane catch with the defender draped all over him, but just can't quite hang on to it, is that I understand that Hopkins is up there in age. I understand that Travis Kelce is up there in age, and you're going to go up against some really good teams that are really going to try to shut those guys down because they're not the same, bona fide week after week mismatch superstar players at this age. But I think letting Buffalo essentially erase them and not really having an answer for that it is something that can be concerning for the Chiefs offense moving forward. Like you need at this point, Rashee Rice isn't coming back. I'm not planning on Hollywood Brown being back. Now it seems like Isaiah Pacheco's got a strong chance of returning, and hopefully that helps the Chiefs ground game and adds a little bit more explosiveness to it because Kareem Hunt has been this just stream of steady positive gain rusher, but no explosiveness to his game whatsoever anymore. You just need one of them to make a couple of big plays a game. You can't have a game like this against a team that you are definitively going to see in the playoffs in all likelihood, where they fully and completely just erase both of those guys from the offense. And that's exactly what they did on Sunday. Like, that is concerning. I don't know if it was an age thing. I don't know if it was just a really good game plan by the Buffalo Bills. But the Chiefs got to figure out how to make sure that that doesn't happen because Worthy wound up with a nice day, but you don't got enough guys on this offense anymore to allow Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins to be totally erased from the game plan.
Well, no, you don't. And listen, you can erase one of them and as the Chiefs, that's what the Chiefs do, right? They try to erase the other team's best wide receiver. And with the exception of Amari Cooper having a couple of plays early, they kind of did erase Amari Cooper in the second half. And you can't have both of them erased, though. Like you said, one can get erased, but not both. And the issue is that when they do get erased, it opens up other guys, and those other guys have got to make the plays. Like Xavier Worthy has got to bring in that catch. Like them erasing Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins is what opened up Xavier Worthy for that shot play, right? And then he just doesn't make the catch. Them erasing Travis Kelce opened up Noah Gray, and he had a really good game today, right? He had a couple touchdown catches. Yeah. It's got to work out a little bit better for him. Juju Smith-Schuster is just coming back from an injury, so it's going to take some time to get him ramped back up. But when they erase DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster has to have a big game then, right? Like these guys do have to step up. Otherwise, every team's just going to do this to the Chiefs, right? That was what the Buffalo Bills did. I mean, the Denver Broncos did last week, right? That's why the Chiefs had issues. They erased DeAndre Hopkins, and they said, beat us. They brought heat. They literally did Steve Spagnuolo's defense against them, right? And if that's going to be the blueprint to make the Chiefs struggle, then the Chiefs are going to have to find a way to work around that and beat it. And back-to-back weeks, it kind of seems like you erase their top wide receivers. The ancillary guys aren't ready to step up yet.
Yeah, and I think some of that is just a talent deficiency. Like when you get down to McCole Hardman and Justin Watson, those aren't guys you want to be relying on. But we've seen this team win a Super Bowl with those guys being key components of this thing. And so I do think there is something to the idea that the Chiefs don't totally want to overplay their hands in these kinds of matchups in the regular season because they are playing for the long haul. They're playing for the postseason. So I do think there's some of that. And, you mentioned Noah Gray, Noah Gray, first multi-score game of his career. He steps up in the absence of Travis Kelce in this thing where Buffalo absolutely takes him out of the game plan. Noah Gray winds up coming up big for the Chiefs. And we've seen Noah Gray, he has quietly put together a really nice season for this Chiefs offense. But again, Noah Gray is still not the kind of player where it's you want Noah Gray to be your third option in the offense. That's essentially what he was today for the Chiefs. So hats off to Noah Gray for having a nice game, having a career day. But they still have to figure things out in terms of pass catchers and finding ways to get guys more consistent. Maybe it is getting Juju healthy and getting him back incorporated in the offense with DeAndre Hopkins in the mix here. And then you get Isaiah Pacheco back and it'll add an element to that rushing attack. But that was something that kind of bothered me too, Rocky, is that Buffalo has been a team that you can run on this season, but because of the Chiefs' approach to this game, where they came out and they looked like they were trying to go toe-to-toe with the Bills and put up points in this one, they essentially can't really run the ball as much as we've seen them do effectively over the last several weeks. And so Kareem Hunt winds up having kind of a quiet day. He has a couple of nice moments in this one, but you put yourself in a position where you can't really run the football because you need to go get points now. And so they wind up not being able to lean on that rushing attack the way that we have seen them do over the first 10 weeks of the season. And I think that's something that hurt the Chiefs offensively on Sunday.
Well, and especially when you're playing against a team like the Buffalo Bills, where this is their, like, that's the thing. When you're the Chiefs, you're everybody's Super Bowl. Like, their fans were fired up to beat the Chiefs today. Every time that you go into Buffalo, whether it be the postseason or the regular season, you're going to get their best shot, and their fans are going to be rabid, and everybody wants to knock off the Chiefs, no matter when it is that they play them. And so when you have a Buffalo Bills team where this is their Super Bowl and they're going for it on every single fourth down to try to make a statement, right? Like, that's another thing. Like, yeah, the Chiefs are playing vanilla because they're playing the long game, but you also have a Buffalo Bills team that's putting everything on the table to win this game, right? They know the importance of this game to them and their fan base. And so they're giving everything they got, and they're putting everything on the table, and they're willing to risk everything. And you have a Chiefs team that's trying to hold back a little bit, right? Like, so I mean, it's just, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for the Chiefs. It's just that they're just a different, it's like when, like, for me, I got 2 kids under the age of 3, and I'm up every single day at like 3 a.m. and then my day starts. Then my friends who have like 9-year-olds are like, oh, my kid slept in until 9:30 today. I'm like, wow, we're just at different points in our life, right? Like, we don't have the same life. And like, the Chiefs don't have the same life as the Buffalo Bills. Like, I got to do crazy things to keep my family going, just like the Bills got to do crazy things, like going for it on every fourth down, where my friends who have 9-year-olds can say, oh, we're just going to hold back a little bit. We're just going to sleep in, and we'll that way we'll have a good day later down the road. You know, and so it's just 2 teams at different stages with different goals, right? The Buffalo Bills' goal is to win a Super Bowl, but first and foremost is to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Yeah. And so,
and that's like what I think like always gets lost in this, like, because every team wants to beat the Chiefs. Every team wants to put their best effort of the season on tape against this team. Because if you can go toe-to-toe with this team, like, you can compete in the NFL. And I just don't think the Chiefs care. Like, that's why I think the undefeated season thing, like, it was never real to me. And it never meant that much to me, because I don't think that they as a team cared about it. And we've just seen too many times over the last several years where they show up to games in the regular season and look totally uninterested. And I think they've done a better job of not doing that this season. But it's the NFL. Like, it's just too hard to win games in the NFL to realistically think a team with the issues that they do have is going to find a way to go undefeated the entirety of the regular season. So, like, I'm fine with them dropping this game. It's not the end of the world. I still think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC. I still think that they are the front runner for the Super Bowl once again. And I think that they will get some things figured out. Now, coming out of this game, Rocky, I think the biggest concern for me is not the pass catchers. It's not the offensive line. It's not all the pressure that Patrick Mahomes seemed to be under against the Buffalo Bills. It's that now we have a large sample size of this Chiefs defense looking like the injuries have caught up to them, looking like it is not quite the same unit that we can – critical moment of the game, you need the defense to go out and get a stop. They are absolutely going to go out there and make that play and get that stop, or do what they have to do to put you in a position to win. And now you got a 3-week sample size, Rocky, where the secondary looks out of sorts. It looks confused at times. It looks like they got too many young guys back there making mistakes. And the pass rush just isn't winning enough up front. Like, and then the linebackers are having issues tackling and whatever. And all of that just kind of piled up today against a very talented team, where that last Josh Allen touchdown run on, I think it was 4th and 3 or 4th and 2, Josh Allen takes off, breaks multiple tackles, just does the whole Superman thing that we've seen him do, and barrels his way into the end zone through multiple Chiefs. Like, that was happening all day on Sunday, Rocky. Like, the tackling issues were apparent for this defense. And this is the first time definitively that I was like, okay, I'm officially like worried about this Chiefs defense a little bit. Are they still very talented? Do they still have some star players? Yes, absolutely. Steve Spagnuolo is still the best defensive coordinator in football. But now I do have questions about whether or not they can overcome the circumstances that they're currently facing with the group, with the personnel that they have based off of the injuries that they've suffered on that side of the ball.
100%. On that last run, Nick Bolton missed tackle was unforgivable. Like, he just tried to throw his body into Josh Allen and knock him over. Like wrap him up. You were in a position to wrap him up, and you didn't. You just tried to throw your shoulder into him, Nick Bolton. Like, Nick Bolton had a pretty good game, but that missed tackle was, if you go back and watch the play, it's horrible. It was a horrible effort by Nick Bolton on that last play with the game on the line, and you can't have that. The secondary is very concerning. You see Steve Spagnuolo once again for back-to-back weeks playing a lot of four safeties. Like, you saw Jaden Hicks, Brian Cook, Justin Reed, and Chamari Connor in the game, and you saw Chamari Connor get smoked a couple of times. And why? Because Najee Johnson can't play man-to-man coverage on the outside. But Chamari Connor isn't athletic enough to play man-to-man coverage in the slot all the time, right? He's getting beat. And so the problem is that you don't have enough cornerbacks on this team to cover the number of wide receivers that people are putting out there. So you're trying to play four safeties, which is fun in run defense, but they're getting eaten alive by these slot receivers, and you're just seeing them convert, third down after third down after third down. They just could not get off the field because the secondary couldn't cover anybody today. And you talk about the pass rush. It's really aggravating that with Josh Allen, when he's under pressure, like this is PFF's advanced stats. When he's under pressure, his passer rating drops to a 50.3% from an 85, from a 50.3 grade to an 80 from an 85. His average depth of target goes from 6.2 yards to 13 yards. Why? Because when he's pressured, he chucks and prays. You saw that over and over and over again. Josh Allen chucking and praying to Amari Connor. Josh Allen chucking and praying down the sideline. Josh Allen chucking and praying. We got one interception from it. That was a cool play. But that's what he does when he's under pressure, is he chucks and prays. And the Chiefs just did not have the defensive backs to make him pay for it today. Like on that one play, that it was a dime to Amari Cooper, whatever. But put your inside hand up. Like Najee Johnson, you're trying to reach up with your outside hand. Get your inside hand up, and that pass is broken up. It's just small little things by this defense where they're just not good enough in the secondary. And then with Josh Allen running the ball, like, yeah, he's a freight train. He's a freight train. Like there's no way around that. But guess what? He's not as athletic as people give him credit for. His average runs per game, his average yards per attempt to the left are off the edge 2.5 yards a carry, off the left guard 3.5 yards a carry, off the right guard 2.3 yards a carry, tackle 4 yards a carry, but up the middle 8.5 yards per carry, because that's where he runs, is straight up the middle. You got Chris Jones, you got Mike Pennell, you got the bodies to stuff the middle, but you didn't have the lane integrity today. These guys are letting themselves just get pushed to the side, kind of like you saw with Karlaftis on that one bootleg play where he spun move inside and it gave that Josh Allen get out of the pocket. The adverse thing is true with the interior pass rushers, is that they're trying to get through, but then what they're doing is they're taking the seam between the guard and the tackle, and they're not getting between the guard and the center and winning, which it just parts the Red Sea unless he gives Josh Allen all the space in the world he needs to run the ball. And you got to know when you're going against Josh Allen that center lane is the most important lane to pressure in the entire game. You cannot let you have to win directly over the center every single time. Otherwise, he's going to make you pay. And the Chiefs didn't do that. And that's concerning that they don't know that.
And it's like, but I don't think that this is a case of like, I think against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think you could legitimately make the case that like Liam Cohen is like just such a good play caller that like he was legitimately giving Spags problems. Like I didn't feel like the Bills had some crazy creative game plan that was putting Spags as a play caller in a blender. I think now it's the personnel is catching up to that, and Spags has to find a way to make an adjustment. And he's doing what you mentioned, which is a lot of forced safety looks, which we have seen him do in the past. Like the days with Dan Sorensen being heavily in the mix and in the rotation were those kinds of days where the Chiefs just didn't have the bodies in the cornerback room. And at the end of the day, it's Josh Allen is an absolute superstar player, and they were able to execute and find the mismatches that they wanted. Like, credit to the Chiefs. Like, James Cook, I know he had 2 early rushing scores, but for the most part, they held up on the ground. And James Cook, they tried to get him involved in the passing game, and that's a good mismatch for them on paper. But the Chiefs did a pretty good job of kind of holding him down and not giving up a bunch of big plays to him, which is something that I was worried about coming into this one. Like, I thought James Cook was going to have a very big role in the passing game, and he winds up with 5 catches for 7 yards. But it's what you mentioned. It's the slot receiver. It's the Khalil Shakirs of the world. It's the Curtis Samuels of the world. Like, they find those mismatches in the slot because Jamari Conner, for as much as I love him and I love the speed at which he plays, Jamari Conner's not the greatest in coverage. He over pursues constantly, and then he misses tackles. And so I know he had the interception today, and Jamari Conner has certainly had his bright moments and his splash plays this season for the Chiefs, but he's still a very young player. He's still a very raw second-year player who is developing and has to get better about having awareness and being able to diagnose things on the field, because he's constantly just running downhill with his head down. And that's why he winds up over pursuing and missing tackles. And it's costing the Chiefs right now because they don't have the personnel in the cornerback room. Like, Najee Johnson's just not a talented enough player. And it tells you everything you need to know about Joshua Williams, who has been a huge disappointment this season for me, Rocky, because I thought after what we had seen from him, like, I thought having Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams, like with Trent McDuffie, I was like, this cornerback room is still going to be really good, even without L'Jarius Sneed. And then Watson goes down. Joshua Williams can't even really get on the field because they don't trust him. And Najee Johnson's just simply not talented enough to be out there in one-on-one coverage. And that's why we're seeing these looks from Steve Spagnuolo, because they don't have the bodies in the cornerback room anymore. And it's a legitimate concern for the defense, because I still think the pass rush is going to get there. You're going to add Charles Omenihu back. Josh Uche is going to get more into the mix, and you'll see what he can do down the stretch for them. And George Karlaftis has had a nice run here. And Chris Jones is obviously going to make the plays when you need him to at key moments of the season. But the secondary is the biggest concern for me, because I went from thinking, okay, this is still a top 5 unit in the NFL, to being like, yeah, now this might be more like the 15th to 18th best defense in the NFL if this secondary is going to play like this the rest of the way.
Well, and the issue is that the guy they lost in Jalen Watson was the one elite athlete they had in the secondary. Like, you love Justin Reed, you love Brian Cook, you love Trent McDuffie even, but none of those guys make their living based upon being an elite athlete. Jalen Watson ran in the 4.3s at his combine. He jumped, what, I think 40 inches, something close to that. Like, he was a combine darling who learned how to play football, who played at a small school, right? And, like, here's the thing, is that if you don't have any elite guys, then you're going to constantly have to win based upon scheme and outsmart the other team, because you can't just man up across the line of scrimmage and just cover the other guy, right? Like, you don't have those elite athletes in the secondary currently. It's the most concerning thing for this team. That all being said, I know I sound like the sky is falling with this defense. The sky's not falling, right? It's still a very good defense. It's a very good defense that played poorly today. You gave up 30 points. You deserve to take your licks, right? Anytime a defense gives up 30 points, you're most likely not going to win that football game, and it's because your defense gave up 30 points, right? And so take your licks, go back to work, watch the tape, fix your problems. But there is an athleticism deficiency in the secondary right now that they have to figure out. They have to either figure out a way to make up for it, or they got to find somebody at home on a couch somewhere that can run really fast and jump really high, and at least just make a couple of plays, right? You like, and it sucks because there's not that guy's not out there. There's not a guy's not off. Like, all those guys are currently on teams. Like, your best bet is you better start combing every practice squad in the NFL and find a guy who has a ton of upside.
You gotta hope you can
that's
find
where you're at right now.
A Charvarius Ward just sitting on somebody's practice squad out there. Yeah, no, it's concerning, and that's why the Chiefs were in the mix to try to make a move at cornerback before the trade deadline. But it's hard to find really talented cornerbacks, and that's why the Chiefs weren't able to get something done. And so now it's like, yeah, you're going to have to do that, which they have actually had some success doing that. The year that they went out and got Charvarius Ward, it was because they were playing guys like Orlando Scandrick in the secondary. And so like they've been able to do some things like that before. So maybe they do still have something up their sleeve, but the answer is that you got what you got right now, and you got to be able to find answers for that. And you got to be able to overcome the circumstances that are currently in front of you. Now, maybe Jalen Watson does wind up making it back for the playoffs, and he winds up being a huge piece for them in the postseason. But right now, this is what you got. And I don't know if there's another level to this thing with Joshua Williams, but obviously his inconsistencies as a player have been enough for the Chiefs to be like, we don't even trust him to be out there significantly in the secondary right now. And so it's without a doubt the biggest concern for me moving forward with this team, because this team went from, if the offense can't get it going, at least we know we can always rely on the defense. And you can't always rely on the defense right now. Thankfully, they got this good stretch of games coming up where they're going to be able to pile on some of the mistakes probably and still come away with wins, because you got the Carolina Panthers and the Las Vegas Raiders coming up in the next 2 weeks. Those are obviously very favorable games for the Kansas City Chiefs. Then you got a tough matchup with the Chargers. Then the Browns, like, they're a little bit more interesting with Jameis Winston, and that's before you lead in that tough 2-game stretch against the Texans and the Steelers. So they've got 4 weeks, Rocky, where I feel like they can really play around with this thing. They can really experiment and try to figure some things out on the defensive side of the ball. But they got to find something there, because it can't just be buy time until Jalen Watson gets back, because we still don't even know definitively that's going to happen. And we know what happened with Hollywood Brown and the expectation that, like, oh, he'll be back. And then, injury doesn't heal right. And now it's like, oh, he's done for the season and never played a regular season stat for the Kansas City Chiefs. So you can't bank on that. They have to find some answers moving forward. And it's going to start with Steve Spagnuolo just trying to make some adjustments and see what he can do to overcome the circumstance that they're
in. 100%. Without a doubt, it's going to be up to Spagnuolo to find the answers. But it's also up to Patrick Mahomes not to put the defense in bad situations too, right? Like Patrick Mahomes has to be his defense's best friend moving forward. His 2 interceptions today were both pretty bad. And the first one was, I'll go back to it. It was unforgivable at that point in that drive, in the first drive of the game, to turn the ball over on your very first set of downs at midfield, man. Like your defense was behind the 8 ball with a short field before they even had a second to get a drink of Gatorade after the national anthem, and you as the best player in the NFL, as the greatest quarterback of all time, you cannot put your defense in that situation. You're supposed to make your defense's life easier in these situations when they're looking for answers. And he created problems today. And I love Patrick Mahomes, but dude, you got to play better. He has to play better than what he did today.
And that's something that he's kind of done all season long. Like, you just need better play from him. And it felt like we were kind of starting to figure some things out over the last few weeks. And then you have that weird game against the Denver Broncos, who obviously have a very talented defense as a divisional opponent. And then this huge matchup against the Buffalo Bills. So it's a tough stretch. I do have faith that Patrick Mahomes is going to play better, and they're going to figure it out, and they're going to put it together. But right now, it's easy to see where the issues are coming from for the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, Chiefs fall to the Buffalo Bills 30-21, suffer their first loss of the season. Let's get to a few comments before we get out of here, Rocky. I think 40 minutes on the first loss, and this was very level-headed. The sky's not falling. It's 1 loss, 9-1 football team. You still sit atop the conference, and you have a very favorable schedule moving forward. So I think the Chiefs are still in tremendous shape here, so we don't need to overreact to one loss against a very good Buffalo Bills team. And as Nikita mentions, it's better to lose and learn now against the Bills versus in January. Like, that's why I still am a believer. Like, the Chiefs didn't bust out everything in this game because they know they're going to need that when they play this team again in January in all likelihood. Because right now, the AFC doesn't look very great right now, Rocky. Like, the Ravens just lost, but the Ravens, everybody's billing the Ravens as if they're this AFC powerhouse now and they're coming for the Chiefs, when in reality, it's been the Buffalo Bills all season. Like, it's easily been the Buffalo Bills all season who are the biggest challenger to the Chiefs in the AFC. So it's better to do it now because you know the success that you've had against this team in the postseason. And even in a loss, Rocky, I'm still not totally convinced that the Buffalo Bills are that much better than the Kansas City Chiefs. I just don't buy it. Like, I still think the Chiefs are easily the best team in the AFC.
Honestly, it was a couple of plays that went the one way versus the other. I think in the multiverse of 100 universes, the Chiefs probably won 35 of them today, right? Like, it was like, even with the Chiefs not best game, it wasn't their best game, they still were not that far out of it. I do think Buffalo is the second best team in the AFC, and that's probably also why the Chiefs didn't show them everything, right? And so it sucks. It sucks that they lost, but it's also not the end of the world, right? I'm much more scared of the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl than I am of the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs right now.
Yes, me too. Detroit is very good. And that Detroit defense, even though they lost their best defensive player, is still much better than anybody realizes. And that offense is absolutely insane. So from our friend Elliot, I always assume we lose the regular season because we use our basic plays and Buffalo shows their A packages and they don't have any big surprises left for the playoffs. Like, I think that's valid. And I think there's a lot of teams that do this. We talk about the Chiefs. They get everybody's best shot. It's their regular season Super Bowl. Anytime you're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, like, the Chiefs have had so much success that they can leave things locked up until they get to the playoffs. And other teams don't do that because they want to go out and win and they have to grind through these regular seasons in a way that the Chiefs simply don't. Like, I think that's a very valid assumption from our guy, Elliot, Rocky.
Yep, in the famous words of our guy Elliot, Buffalo blows its load in week 11, and the Chiefs are the tantric champions.
From SGU, a lot to learn from this game, and much can still be improved before the playoffs. Yeah, it's a long NFL season. We're only like halfway through this thing, dude. Like, we got a long way to go. The Chiefs are getting healthier right now. And honestly, we're sitting in week 11, Rocky, and for all of the injuries the Chiefs have suffered, if we were talking about this team as losing their first game of the year in week 11, and like, if they had started the season with the roster currently how it is, and we weren't just sitting around saying, well, they've had all these injuries and they're doing all this stuff, like, we'd be absolutely thrilled that the Chiefs are 9-1 through 11 weeks in the NFL regular season.
Listen, if we had no injuries and we still had Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Isaiah Pacheco, and everybody else on this team, I would not have thought we would be 9-1 at this stage. I didn't have us as 9-1 at this stage in the year, right? So we're still exceeding expectations of what I thought we were going to do with our full roster, let alone the injuries that we've suffered, right? So like you said, the sky's not falling. The Chiefs are still going to three-peat. I still firmly believe that. The Chiefs are still the best team in the NFL. The NFL is just such a league of parity that every win and loss is the margin of error is so thin. And the Chiefs were just on the wrong side of that margin today.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. They still sit atop the AFC, and with a very favorable matchup next week as they head on the road to take on the Carolina Panthers in week 12. So we'll have everything you need to know about that matchup here at Foolish Club Media. So make sure you subscribe, rate, and review on Apple and Spotify. Head over to our YouTube page. please make sure you subscribe there. We got tons of daily stuff coming out now, so we appreciate all the support you guys have shown us. Make sure you follow Rocky on Twitter at Rocky Magaña. I'm Steven Serda. That's where you can find me, and make sure you stay locked into Foolish Club Media this week. We'll be back live tomorrow at noon, latest episode of the Daily Fix. We'll have a V season for you, recapping this game, maybe calling the Madden hotline. We'll see what Rocky and Kramer feel like doing this week, but we absolutely got you covered here on Foolish Club Media, so make sure you stay locked in. We'll talk to you guys this week.